Two people can have the exact same backyard, same size, same soil, same sunlight. One barely grows enough to matter, the other produces hundreds of pounds of food every year. I used to be the first person. For a long time, I didn't understand why. The difference isn't the yard, it's the system, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. I want to start with the mistake I made for years, because I see it everywhere, and it's exactly where most backyards stop being productive before they even begin. I treated my backyard like a hobby. I'd pick a few things I like to eat, find a sunny spot, put them in the ground, and hope for the best. Some years were decent, most were just fine. At the end of the season, I was maybe saving $20 on groceries, and honestly, probably spending more than that on seeds and soil amendments. Then winter came, the garden went dormant, and I'd start over from scratch in spring like nothing had carried over. That's not a food system. That's a seasonal experiment that resets every year. And here's the thing, I wasn't being lazy, I was putting in real work. The problem was that I was using a model that was never actually designed to produce food security. I just didn't know there was a different model. A typical vegetable garden runs entirely on annual crops. You plant in spring, harvest in summer, and the space goes empty in fall. That means roughly half the year your backyard produces nothing. And during the months it does produce, everything arrives at once. 10 pounds of tomatoes in 2 weeks, more zucchini than any family can reasonably deal with, and then nothing. That feast and famine pattern is the opposite of what food security actually looks like. Real food security means something coming in from your land in January, not just July. Consistent production across as many months as your climate allows, whether you're in the southeast with a long growing season or somewhere in the Midwest pushing hard against first frost. Almost nobody thinks about that when they start a garden. It's why most backyard gardens feel like a lot of effort for not much payoff. It's not you, it's the model. The second thing I got wrong for a long time, and this surprised me when I finally understood it, is that my garden was completely flat. One layer, sun hits the soil, plant grows, that's it. But look at any natural ecosystem, a forest, an overgrown field, even a neglected lot. You never see one layer. You see ground cover, shrubs, mid-sized plants, tall plants, maybe a canopy above it all. Multiple layers using the exact same square footage in completely different ways. A productive backyard food system borrows that logic, and once you understand it, you stop seeing a backyard and start seeing a system with a lot of unused capacity. So let's walk through the layers, because this is where it gets practical. The first layer, perennials. These are plants you put in the ground once that come back every year, usually getting more productive over time. Fruit trees are the most obvious example. A single apple tree, once it's established, can produce 300 to 500 pounds of fruit in a good year. A fig tree in the right climate needs almost no care and delivers heavily every season. Now, not everyone has room for a full-size tree, and that's fine. Dwarf fruit trees grow in a large container on a patio and still produce 30 to 50 pounds per season. If all you've got is a small yard or even a deck, that option still works. Then there are berry bushes, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. They fit almost any yard, start producing within a couple of years, and keep going for decades. I'll be honest with you, when I planted my first blueberry bushes, I thought I was being patient, waiting 2 years for a real harvest. Year 3 came around and we had more than we could eat fresh. We started freezing them, making jam, giving bags to neighbors. Those 4 bushes I almost didn't plant became one of the most reliable things in our whole system. My wife still calls them the best $40 we ever spent on the yard. Here's what took me too long to understand. Perennials are the single highest return investment in a backyard food system, and they're the first thing most people skip because they're thinking about this season. The people who actually build food independence are thinking about the next 10. The second layer, your annual production zone. This is the traditional vegetable garden, but placed and planted with intention. The mistake most people make here, including me for years, is filling this space with things that are easy and satisfying to grow but don't actually feed you. Lettuce, herbs, cherry tomatoes. They look great, they're fun, and they contribute almost nothing to your actual food supply. The crops that move the needle are the unglamorous ones: potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squash, dry beans. A 10 by 12 bed of sweet potatoes can yield 80 to 100 pounds of food. That's not a garnish. That's a meaningful chunk of a family's diet for months. Potatoes store well. Dry beans store for years. These are the crops that actually reduce your grocery bill in a way you can feel. The third layer, vertical and edge space. Fences, trellises, walls, almost always ignored, almost always free square footage. A simple cucumber trellis can produce 20 to 30 pounds of food in just a few square feet. Climbing beans, squash trained up a structure, grapevines along a fence line. All of it using space that was doing nothing before. If you've got a 6-foot fence running along your property line, that's vertical growing space you're currently not using. On the fourth layer, and this is the one that changed everything for me, is the soil itself. I used to treat soil like the stuff that holds the plant up. What's actually happening underground is more interesting than that. Healthy soil is a living system. Billions of organisms breaking down organic matter, cycling nutrients, building structure. When that system is working, plants grow faster, resist disease better, and need far less from you. When it's depleted, and a lot of backyard soil is closer to depleted than people realize, especially in newer neighborhoods where topsoil got scraped during construction, you're fighting the garden every single season. The fix isn't complicated. Kitchen scraps go into a compost pile. That compost goes back onto the beds. A layer of wood chips or straw on top keeps moisture in and slowly feeds everything underneath. You stop leaving soil bare between seasons. You won't notice much in year 1. By year 3, the difference is hard to explain until you've seen it. The garden that's been building its soil just works differently. Plants that used to struggle start thriving without you doing anything extra. That's not magic. It's what happens when you stop working against the biology and start working with it. So how do you actually start? Plant perennials first. Even if you have nothing else set up, no raised beds, no compost system, put 1 fruit tree or 2 berry bushes in the ground this season. Those plants start working the moment you plant them. Every year you wait is a year of production you'll never get back. Pick one area for high-yield annual crops. Even a 4x8 raised bed planted with the right things can outperform a much larger garden planted with the wrong ones. Find your vertical space. A trellis along a fence costs almost nothing and can add dozens of pounds of food to your season. Start a compost pile. Even a simple heap in the corner of the yard is enough to begin building the underground system that makes everything else work better over time. There's a guide called the Backyard Miracle Farm System that breaks this entire layered approach down step by step: what to plant, how to organize it, and how to build a backyard that produces consistently year after year. I left the link in the pinned comment if you want to dig deeper. The people I know who've built real backyard food systems aren't working harder than everyone else. I mean, most of them are working less because once the system is set up, it largely runs itself. What they did differently was think in systems from the beginning, not just in seasons. Your backyard isn't a patch of grass. It's not a summer hobby. With the right approach, it's a source of consistent food that can cut your grocery bill every single month and give you a kind of security that doesn't depend on what's happening at the store. That doesn't require a farm. It just requires deciding to build something intentional instead of starting over from scratch every spring. If this video shifted how you see your backyard even a little, hit like. It helps this reach more people trying to build real food independence. Subscribe if you want to keep going because there's a lot more to cover. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you're working with and which layer you want to tackle first. I read everyone.